as we get started here, it is important to understand that some of the concepts that I cover here apply to both Office 365 and Office 2013. In this brief video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create a table of contents in a document. Suppose we have a document that has multiple pages similar to this, and you want to create a table of contents. Whenever you're creating a table of contents, you need to keep in mind two important things. First, you have to apply a style throughout the document, and the styles have to be heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, or more than heading 3 as well throughout the document. And it has to be heading 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever. If you do not like the way the heading 1, 2, and so on looks, then you can customize it, heading itself, so that you can successfully generate the table of contents. So in this case, you just simply select the different sections and you mark them as heading 1. Let's say this is heading 1 as well. Then let's say this is going to be heading 2. Notice it doesn't look that great at this point. Heading 2 as well. Now, if for some reason you do not like one of the headings looks like, for example, the case here with heading 2 for these, what you can do is simply format it the way you want. And then right-click on heading 2 and then choose Update Heading 2 to match the selection. What that does is that it changes the style for heading 2 to match whatever you have over here, and also it will update other sections where you applied that specific heading 2 in this case. So notice this was updated as well. Now we choose heading 1, heading 2, heading 1, heading 2, let's say heading 2 again, and heading 2 again. Now, at this point, once we have created the document, I'm going to save it pretty quickly here. Then you scroll to the top of the document. The table of contents usually goes somewhere, either page 1 or page 2 of the document. In this case, I'm going to put it on page 2. And then I'm going to go and insert a blank page. And then that will give me enough space here to insert the table of contents. So all I have to do now to insert it, since I applied the heading styles, now I go under References, click on Table of Contents, and then pick one of those automated ones. So I click on Table of Contents, and notice it has been created. So if you go and change one of the headings, for example, apply a different level or a different heading style to a portion of the document, then what you need to do, for example, this is the beginning of the document, this is the next level here, it's still heading number 1. If I go and change this to heading number 2, then what you need to do is you can go back to the table of contents here and then simply click on Update Table. Once you click on Update Table, you could update the page numbers only, but in this case, since we changed the heading, we want to update the entire table. So then you click OK, and notice this got indented as level 2 or heading number 2. So it's as easy as that in creating and customizing the table of contents in a Word doc. More customizations can also be done by going under References and then Table of Contents, and then you can also go here under Custom Table of Contents and then tinker with more options from here, like as to how many levels and modifying additional options and so on, as far as the formatting, the font, and all that type of stuff. Well, again, you apply the heading 1, heading 2 styles, and then you simply click to create a table of contents. In this session, I will show how to create and insert footnotes and endnotes in a document. So let's suppose we have this document here and we want to insert footnote. Well, all you have to do is you go under the wherever in the text, click next to the word where you want to have the footnote, and then simply click on References and then insert footnote. And then simply type here, for example, new interface and tools. Let's say we mean here smart art. And let's say even if you inserted footnotes elsewhere in the document, for example, let's say even above it, it's going to change the numbers automatically here in our case. So let's say business information, insert here again footnote, and notice now it put that as number 1 and it changed the tools as number 2 here, and so on. Footnotes are going to be at the end of each page automatically. Now endnotes are going to be notes that are ended and generated for the end of the document, and this can happen, or it can come in useful for somebody writing papers or keeping track of references and things of that nature, even though we'll cover those under citations and bibliography in a moment here. Let's say we wanted to insert here another endnote. Now in this case, we click on Insert Endnote, and there it is. And then we go back to another page in the document, and then Insert Endnote again. Then another one, and so on. So basically you see the difference. Footnotes at the bottom of the page, endnotes at the end of the document. And other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory. One thing to remember here is that in order to delete something, it's best to just go and find it in the document here, and then simply delete the little reference here for the endnote, and that will delete the note at the end of the document as well. So I deleted there. Now number 3 is gone. And that's how you do endnotes and footnotes. One of the very useful tools, particularly for research and for students in Word 2013 or Word 365, is the use of citations and bibliography sections here under the References tab in Microsoft Word. This tool gives you the option to build and manage your sources as you're doing research. You select the style that you use for your papers, and then you basically combine them and keep track of all those sources and resources as you're doing your research. And then at the end of your research or research paper, you can simply create a bibliography or the endnotes section, or the references or works cited section. So here's how it works. Let's say we have this document, and of course usually this takes place during the research process that you document these sources, but let's assume we are doing that as we are going in this document. So let's say here we are citing a section of this, and now here we want to insert the citation. So all you have to do is, let's say we are in the Home tab, and then we go here under References, then you go under Insert a Citation. So it's basically to give credit to a source of information, citing the book, article, and so on for purposes of academic requirements. So you click here under Add a New Source, and then we basically can insert here any of those types. It can be a book section, a journal, article, a periodical, a report, a website, and so on. So basically, each one of those has to be cited a specific way for that specific format. And by the way, first what you probably need to do is select the style that you're going to use. So notice there's a whole bunch of styles for writing your papers. So in this case, I'm just going to choose the APA style. This is more widespread, particularly in grad education and certain types of sciences. So we go here under APA. Now we click on Insert Citation, add a new source, and let's say it's a book. And we simply have to insert here the fields that are required. The computer will keep track of how to format it and how to display it and all that type of stuff. So here under Author, we can put the year it was published, the city, Then if you wanted to insert here additional fields, you can, like if it's a multi-volume and so on. So you can click on additional fields, and then you can put the volume, the number of pages and so on, the edition. So all these different pieces of information. Then you simply click OK. Notice it formats it correctly here. And now we move somewhere else on the paper. Now let's suppose that this is also a quote as well, and as you know, probably this needs to be formatted slightly different. And then let's say here we want to post a reference, to enter the reference. So we click on Insert, Add New Source, and then we put here and then simply click on OK. Then it could also be an article from the web that we got parts of the information here. So to cite an article from the web, you simply click on Insert Citation, and then we choose here Add a New Source, and then we choose, instead of a book, we go and choose a website or a document from a website. So under the document from a website, the way it kind of works is that, so in this case, let's say we have an article from a website, and this is, for example, from CNN, and it's this article written by Melanie Hicken, and it's accessed on October 12, 2014. And this is the actual article. So how do we cite this? Well, the way to cite that is by simply filling in this information. So we put in the information here, and then the name or the website. So this would be the name of the web page. So this, in this case, it will be the title of the article. Then the year. This is the year when it was published. The month. And the day. And then we want to put the URL as well for it. And then if we click here and show more, you can also put, in some cases, you might have to put in here the year it was accessed and the date and the month that it was accessed. Because information changes so rapidly on the web, if somebody goes to view this information, you need to determine that on that particular date and time, you were able to access it, even though now it may no longer be available. And then simply click OK. And now it entered this reference. The other thing is that you can, again, you can go elsewhere in the document, add a new source, and basically pick some kind of other source. For example, if it's a sound recording, here's how you state it, the composer, the performance, the year, and all that type of thing. If it was an interview, this is how you cite the interview, the name, and so on. That's how it kind of works. Now, what happens is, as you're typing this document, as you're entering these references, the computer is keeping track of all these references for you. And by the way, it keeps track of all of those references for all your documents and all your assignments. Now, to view those resources that are managed by the computer, you can just go under Manage Sources, and here you'll see a listing of all the resources that those on the right hand side, those are what are being used in this assignment, what have been added to the assignment, and those here on the left are those that are included in the assignment plus additional ones. So for example, there is this one, Information Security in the Digital Age. That is not on the right hand side. That means that it's not used in this assignment. If for some reason you needed to reuse it or use that specific source, all you have to do is you click on Copy here on the right hand side, to the right hand side, and then click OK. Now when we go to the bottom of our document, and here we are going to insert a new page. Basically, we're going to go under Insert, Page Break, and then at this point we are going to insert under References, go back here to under Bibliography. Under Bibliography, you can choose to insert references, bibliography, or works cited, depending on what your assignment is. If we click here on, let's say, Works Cited, notice all of those are alphabetically listed and formatted according to the APA standard. So you don't have to do anything else. Again, the way we did that was we went to the end of the document, clicked on Bibliography, and then chose whether we wanted Works Cited or references, or I'm inserting all three of them. Usually you don't have to do all three of them, but you can kind of see there's not really a whole lot of difference between the three options here. It just depends on the type of assignment that you're doing and what's required by that assignment. So that's how the citations and bibliography works in Word 365, and hopefully it was helpful. In this brief session, I'm going to explain the process on how to create labels using Word 2013 or Word 365. The process is actually simpler than one thinks, or they are used to probably tinkering with it, but basically all you have to have is Microsoft Word, and then the best is to use an Excel file. The Excel file could be a list of names. On the first row can be different labels, for example, the customer number, the company, the first name, last name, telephone, street address, city, zip, and so on. Now, you could have here any other new fields as well. So this list, as you can see, you can create it by either extracting it from an existing system, or you can simply type those addresses and keep those in a list somehow, somewhere, by simply typing them one after the other. So then the next step here is, I'm going to close this. You don't need the Excel file open when you do this. And we need to go to Microsoft Word. Under Word, we need to click on Mailings tab here. So we click on actually a Mailmerge option here. And then we go under Step-by-Step Wizard. I usually recommend the Step-by-Step Wizard because it takes you step by step, as it says, in order to generate those labels. So we click here, and then we tell the system that we are going to create labels. Then click on Next to start the document. Then the next here is telling us that we are going to use the current document layout, or you can use an existing document if you want, but in this case it's going to be labels just populated with the basic names and addresses. If you wanted something where it says labels for with other information, then you can simply type it here on the left hand side. Then the next option here is to choose label options. We need to tell the system what kind of labels are we using for this Mailmerge. Then here under label vendors, unless you have Microsoft, you need to change it to something else. And usually the most common one is the Avery US Letter. Under Avery US Letter, notice there are a lot of different ones. And usually when you go to the store and buy those, you'll have the number directly on the label. So it will tell you on the box of labels as to which number it is, which product number. So one of the common ones that we use is the Avery 5160, which tells me it's 1 inch in height and then 2.63 inches. So we click OK here, and then we type the names. Actually, we don't type anything at this point. We just told the system we're going to use the label Avery 5160. The next step here in the bottom, notice it says go to select the recipients. So we click on select recipients, and then you can use an existing list, you can use the contacts from Outlook, or you can type a new list if you wanted as well. But like I said earlier, it's easier to just type the list first in Excel and then you just utilize that list. So we go here under use an existing list, and then we go and find it and locate it. Click on browse, and then we are going to go here under week 3. And this is the customer list for Mailmerge. Now in here there are 2 tabs or 2 sheets in this spreadsheet. Now when I had this earlier, it was the first one. So Basically, I'm not going to open it again, but it's going to be one of the first ones. Usually when you open Excel, it's going to have 2 to 3 tabs that it starts with. So we'll pick the first one, and these are all the names. You could filter those names if you wanted, but for now we're going to leave everything alone for the sake of simplicity. Then we're going to go, and here on the first one, we're going to click on Insert Merge Field. So we go here to the first label, and then we click on Merge, Insert Merge Field, and we say Insert First Name, a space, Insert Last Name, hit Enter, then Insert Street Address, hit Enter again, and then we are going to insert the city, comma, state, and then the zip. Now here is where pretty much everybody has problems, because the labels don't populate through all the fields. So the next thing what you need to do here is we click on Arrange Labels, and then the next thing what you have to do here is click on Update All Labels. So before you go and preview them, you want to update the same information that you see here to all of the labels all over in that same sheet. So the computer will do this automatically for you, and this is just for the labels. You click on Update All Labels, and notice it's a whole bunch of stuff in there. Then we click on Preview Your Labels, and notice the information is posted. If for some reason we want to change something here, we could go back to the previous step where the code stuff is, highlight it, let's say the first and last name, we want to make it bold. Click on bold there. If you want to put the word to, we could do that right in front of it. But then remember to update all labels again, and that will populate all the labels. Then preview your labels, and then complete the merge. You can preview them, how it's going to look page by page by page, but basically the last step what you want to do is complete the mail merge. You complete it, you could print it, or you can click on Edit Individual Labels. If we click on Edit Individual Labels, click on OK, this is the final product. So the final product here, basically, it's the whole merged results. This you shouldn't have to tinker with it. If something is not correct, it is recommended that you go back to your Excel file. I'm not going to save the results here. You go to your Excel file, you change whatever you need to change, and then you come here to the previous step, which, by the way, you can save this form, and you can save it particularly with the codes at this stage, and anytime you run it in the future, it will actually pull from the same list of addresses and list of information. You just have to keep the same file, the data file, and the form, this is referred to as the form file, in the same folder. It's basically the same folder, or linked it, the same structure that it was to start with. And then once you change something, you just go back to preview the labels and complete the merge all over again. So that's how the labels work in Word 2013 or Office 365. In the next few minutes, I'm going to demonstrate how to create a mail merge to send letters to customers or contacts, whether those are friends or invitation or business contacts and so on, using a list of contact information in Excel and Microsoft Word. The process is exactly the same for using a list for Microsoft Access or some other type of data file. So all you need to start is basically the list of customers. So let's suppose this is the list of customers. You could extract this list from an existing system, or you can simply type it. The key here is to keep the top row or the first row with the field names. For example, where it says first name, just the word first name, last name, and so on, because that's how you'll identify what column is what. The next step here is to basically fill in the information however you want to fill it out. You might want to even have a comments field somewhere. So you basically could create another column here and just insert various different comments for each of the customers. This could be information as you keep track as time passes by, or you can just create it for that particular case that you need this. So once you're done with your data file and you have verified that you have the information where you need it, then make sure you close it. We're going to save it and close it. And now we go to Microsoft Word. In Microsoft Word, in this case, you could either have a document or letter that already has been written and you want to reuse it, or you can simply start with the blank document. In this case, we're going to start with a blank document. We are going to go under Mailings, and then we're going to click on Start Mailmerge. Then I would suggest that you use step-by-step Mailmerge wizard. Then we are going to do letters. You can also do email messages. The process is exactly the same, and I'm going to outline it or clarify it in a moment here as well, or do another video for that. So we go under letters, and then we click on Start the Document. The next thing is, it says, do you want to set up your letters, use the existing document? Do you want to use a template, or do you want to use an existing document? So we'll use the current document. Then the next thing here is that it wants us to select the recipients. We can use an existing list or Outlook contacts or create a new one. We're going to use an existing one. Click on Browse. Then we go and find the list. We'll go under the list, find it. Usually it's the first row. Notice it says first row of data contains a column headers. That's why I was saying earlier that keep the labels at the very top row, because that helps in identifying what field is what. Then we click OK, and then notice these are the names that we're going to pull from. We can filter them, we could sort them, we could do other stuff with this, but we're not going to worry about it at this point to keep it simple. And then the next step here is to write the letter. So what we did so far, we told the computer we're going to use this blank document, we're going to use this list. And now we're going to write the letter. Now, in the letter, we could either use the address block, a pre-formatted one, or we'll do it manually. I prefer to do this stuff manually so that we can understand it better. So we click on Insert Field. We go here under, let's say we want to do the date first. Well, we can do the date if we wanted to. But then we click on Insert Field and then put first name, last name, street address, city, state, and then zip code. Now you could write your letter. We're going to do informal here. Your first name, and you could customize, tailor the letter to whatever you want. It could be a newsletter, it could be a notification, it could be all kinds of stuff. So all you're doing here is we're going to have the computer fill in the first names, the address, and whatever we have fields in Excel, and do that automatically. So be as creative as you want. In this case, I'm just keeping it fairly simple for the sake of demonstrating this. So here's the information we have on file for you. Customer information or customer, and you could put the customer ID there, and then you could say account number or outstanding balance or whatever it may be. You can just insert it in here in another field. Let's say telephone number. So then what you can do is you can highlight these, make them, format them the way you want. And then you could even insert here comments or insert. And then you could say thank you. And then sign it with your name. At this point, you could technically also insert images and make this fancier and make it more appealing, but we're not going to go and do that at this point for the sake of simplicity. It's just a matter of inserting a picture and then customizing it the way you want, and simply it's going to duplicate it in every letter that it's going to send out. Then the next step here is to preview your letters, and notice it pulled the first name and the information. Notice this is the comments that I had from earlier in Excel. Now notice there are two periods here. So if we wanted to correct this, what we could do is go back to the previous step where we wrote the letter, and then for comments, just simply remove that period there. And then we go to preview letters again, and that's going to be adjusted for all of them. Now in the case where you didn't have comments, notice that we do not have any information displayed. Now if we are ready, we can click on complete the merge, and then we could either print this or edit and preview them before we send them to the printer. So now I'll click on OK here, and it's going to generate all the letters here with each individual customer information. Again, it's that simple. Excel file with the data and the labels on the first row, and then you simply just link the two together from Word and pick the fields that you want to merge. That's it, and I hope it was helpful. In this brief video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create an email merge to contact customers via email and send them customized emails with their name and specific information pertaining to their account or pertaining to them. So the way it works is that you have to have an Excel file where you're keeping track of the data. By the way, this does not have to be just Excel. It can be data in Access database. It could be data pulled from another system and so on. It could be data from Outlook and so on. But the simplest way is to have it in an Excel file. So on the Excel file, you could have the data similar to this. It's important that on the first column here you'd have the actual field names for what they stand for. For example, this column stands for first name, and it has all the first names and the last name and then telephone number and so on. The labels here on the top, we'll use them from within Word when we do the email merge. The other thing that you will need to have in order to do an email merge is that you need to have an email address or a field with the email address for each of the customers. Of course, the email shouldn't be exactly the same for all the customers, otherwise it will not really work the way you intend it to. The other thing in order for this to work is that you need to have Microsoft Outlook installed or a MAPI compliant email application installed. And usually if you have Office 2013 or Office 365 in your computer, the MAPI or the Microsoft Outlook client application comes with it, and most likely you are using it, or in a business environment you'd be using that. So the way this works is you'd go in Microsoft Word. So we can close the Excel file at this point. We go into Word and we'll create a new document. It doesn't have to be a new one. You can use an existing email or an existing template from Word that you are using. Again, this works in conjunction with Excel and Outlook and Word. So we are using 3 applications from the Office suite. So in this case, we go under Mailings, and then we click on Start a Mail Merge. Then we go under Mail Merge Wizard, and then we go under Email Messages. The process is exactly the same as for creating labels or creating regular mail merge for letters. So the only difference is in the very end when it initiates using Outlook. So in this case, we'll go to next step here. We chose email messages, then start the document, and we are going to use the current document. If we wanted to use something else, we can pick one from here. Then we click the recipients. We have to tell the computer what the recipients. We're going to use an existing list, and we're going to click on Browse to find the list. Then we'll go under wherever we have our Excel file. So you'd know wherever you saved it before, and you'll pick usually the first field that shows up from your Excel file. If your Excel file has more tabs and you're using those tabs, then of course that's what you'd be picking here as well. Notice here it says first row of data contains column headers. You'll click OK, and then this is our data. We can filter it, we can sort it, we can do other stuff here, but for the sake of simplicity, we're not going to tinker with that, and then we're going to click OK. The next step here, it is to write the email message. So we click, and then we go to start writing it. We can say dear, and then insert the field, dear first name. And let's assume at this point that the order number was actually this one under customer ID. We're going to mix it at this point a little bit. So you put in that, and then you can put in other comments, and you can put in whatever other fields that you might be keeping from your data file. So now if we wanted to insert the coupon or whatever it may be, we go online here, we search under Bing for a coupon code. Let's assume that's the coupon. And let's say that's the coupon that we want to send. Now at this point we can format this a little bit better if we wanted to and customize it further. And the next thing is we can click on preview your email. Notice it says Dear Owen, thank you for a recent order 1105, and then we can go to the next customer here, and you can see Dear John, Dear Harry, Dear Kathy, and so on. So you can see it. It's going to send them exactly the same email, but it's going to be personalized with their own name and also some kind of pertinent information related to them. Now in this case we can click on complete the merge, and then the option here, which is different from regular mail merges, is that it's asking us for electronic mail. Then we tell it that the to field is in the email column for the Excel file. So if we had that labeled somewhere else or something different, then you would choose whatever the name of that column is. So in this case I'm going to choose email, and then you can put a subject line. This will be the title of your email, as just like your regular emails. Then the format, you want to have the format, if you're going to use pictures like this, you want to make it HTML format. And then you'd simply click OK. Now at this point the way it works is that the system is going to connect and utilize Microsoft Outlook, and it is going to send those emails one after the other. It's not going to be like a distribution list. It's going to be just one email after the other. Now be cautious and careful here that you don't blast everybody with this type of email or send the wrong email and you misuse the list. So basically if I were to hit OK here, it is going to send those emails out based on the access on the Excel list. Now at this point I'm not going to do that because we get the idea, I hope. And what you can do at this stage, if you go back to where you have the codes here, if something is not correct, you can always go back and correct it into the Excel file and then rerun it again. Now what you can do as well is that you can save this file, notice with the codes here, and if I save it, I'll give the name here on, and then if I'm to go back here after 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever, and I come back to Word again, and then go to open it. Here's my sample email. Notice it's going to come up and ask me, do you want to link to the customer's file in Excel? Of course I want to say yes, and then from this point on we can go here under the steps and then choose just next, basically. And here they are. And basically just complete the merge and do the electronic mail again. So basically you don't have to redesign the form all the time. It works exactly the same. You can save the form both in regular mail merges, in label mail merges, and email mail merges, and reuse the same form multiple times. And you just keep the Excel file up to date. And that's it, and that should do it. It's a very powerful tool, especially today and nowadays where you want to save money. Instead of spending 50 cents on each letter to send out, you can send them an email merge with personalized content in that email. In this brief video, I'm going to demonstrate how to use the track changes feature in Word 2013 or Word 365. So basically what happens is that when working in a team or working with other individuals across the country or the world or next to your desk, you can have the same document and then pass it around, and then everybody makes changes, and all these changes are tracked between the different individuals. So what we can do here is we can go under, let's say when you open Word, you are on the Home tab to start with, but then you want to track the changes. Then you go under the Review tab, and then you click on Track Changes. Under Track Changes, what it does is that any changes from this point on, the system is going to keep track of them. So if I go and delete or make this bold, it's going to keep track of it that it was changed. And then if I go and delete, let's delete that part of it, it's going to tell us that this was changed as well. Now notice it shows these changes on the right hand side, or they are minimized. If you hide them, there will be these red marks here on the left, and this is new in 2013 or 365. But if you want to expand them, it just shows you what happened. So basically any changes, even spaces that you add to the document, are going to be tracked. So then what happens is that the document gets passed around from one person to the other. Each individual can, by the way, it will have your name in there posted as well, but each individual can also choose a different color if they need it to. Once the document comes back to you as the reviewer, what you can do is then, and I'm going to just simplify it here, make it somewhat a little bit simpler, but you have multiple people making the changes to the same document, and then you as a reviewer, you come back here and you say, okay, this was made in bold. If you like that change, that it was made in bold, you accept it. Notice there's a drop down. Accept it and move to the next. And it implements that change. Then if you go over here, this was fine the way it was. So what you do is you just simply reject it and move on to the next. And then this one, Word 365, there's no need for the dash there. So all we have to do is just reject it. So you're going through the document and accepting and rejecting specific changes that were made to the document. Now, what you can also do is that you can lock the tracking as well, so somebody cannot turn off the tracking of the changes in the document accidentally or on purpose. And the way you do that, you just simply click in there, put a password, and then if somebody wants to turn it off, they can't until they enter that password. And this is a new feature in Office 2013 or Office 365. Basically, that's how it works as far as tracking changes. It's intended to be used primarily for collaboration. Now, this next thing is very important for you before you send the document around outside of the organization particularly. There are cases where basically if you go here, you can go and look at the original, you can go and look as to what was changed and suggested. You don't want somebody else outside of your team to see the comments and to see all the adjustments that were made to the document. So what you can do is you can go under File and then inspect the document. So under Info here, you can click on Check for Issues, and then you can choose to inspect the document. This checks it for hidden properties and personal information before you send it out. So we say yes. And now we are going to make sure that all the comments, revisions, and annotations are taken out. Any personal information is taken out, any XML data, and so on. So we click on Inspect. It goes and cleans it out for us. And then you can re-inspect it again, because notice it's saying that there is still personal information. You could remove all the personal information. You could remove all kinds of other stuff here as well if you need it. However, the comments and the revisions and the annotations have been successfully removed. So you can re-inspect it again and then remove whatever you want manually. Then click on Close. At this point, the document should be good to be sent out. In this brief session, I'm going to demonstrate how to use the compare feature between between two documents in Word 2013 or Word 365. So let's say this is one of my documents here. I'm going to save it, and I want to compare this with another version of another document. So what you do is you click on, we are on the Home tab at this point, we want to go under the Review tab, and then we click on Compare. We want to compare two versions of a document. So we're going to put the original document here on the left, and the original document is version 2. So I need to find it. In this case, I can't see it over there, so I'm going to, here it is. This one is the original, and the revised version is the modified version 2. I'm going to check it for all of these properties, whether tabs were added, tables, fields, anything. And then I click OK. At this point, this is a combined view showing the changes between one and the other. So notice the word more effectively, here it was deleted. And if we keep on scrolling down, display, the word display was deleted as well. The word editing was deleted, and so on. So I just changed a couple of the words in this case. The other thing that you can do is you can go here under Compare, and then under Show Source Documents, you can click on Show Both of them. And then we'll be able to see them side by side as to what was changed in each one of them. So here's the original over here, and that's the revised version of it. Notice the word more, to communicate. One has more effectively, the other one doesn't, and so on. So that's how you can use the compare feature between the two documents. And then down here is basically a summary of what changed specifically for both documents and where the revisions were. It works. It's not ideal and perfect, but it's somewhat effective. Using spelling and grammar and the Thesaurus in Word 2013. This feature is pretty much simple and easy to use. However, there might be cases where some of you might find a couple of those things helpful. So I'll try to keep it short. So basically, as we know that as we type something, it gets highlighted. If we mistype something, it gets highlighted. You can right click and choose to correct it and that type of thing. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Of course, for any document that you're going to submit for a final project or a final proposal or whatever it may be, it is highly suggested that you go under the Review tab and you do a complete spell and grammar check. And you can go one after the other here. So for example, it says directly, and we can say we want to change it, and then typed, and so on, and make all the changes that you need. So it gives you also information here as to how to use this stuff, and for the grammar as well. So that's one option. The other thing that you can utilize here is the Thesaurus option. And the Thesaurus option is whenever you're writing a paper or writing something, and in your mind you're thinking, what's another word for that? And your roommate or a friend or whoever is not close by. And of course, nowadays you can get on Google Plus, or you can get on Hangouts, or post a question somewhere. But it's easier to simply right click on a word, and then you can go under synonyms, and you can get exactly different variations or synonyms of that word that you can utilize in your writing. So this is basically for utilizing it for choosing the right word that I'm not able to find myself right now, but choosing the right word by simply going under synonyms and finding the right words to use. Or if you're not sure what a word means, you can also click on the Thesaurus here, and it will pull it up automatically. Now, in some cases, you may also need to sign into your Microsoft account if you're using Word 2013 instead of Word 365. And that's about it, basically, as far as the grammar and the Thesaurus and some of those tools here in the Review tab. Next is the various under the View here. You can choose to view to change the viewing for your document. So for example, you can change into the reading mode. The reading mode, it makes the document a little bit more readable. You can research stuff. So it's designed so that this will be more readable for reading student papers or your project, or for reading your proposal, to avoid any spelling or any issues with it as far as content. Unfortunately, I do not think you can change stuff from here. It would, however, be nice to be able to change stuff. So you can't change anything from the View mode. To return to the regular mode, you just click on Edit Document, and that will bring you back to the regular mode. The other thing you can do is you can display the ruler on the top here. Notice now that we have the ruler. And you can also display grid lines if needed. The navigation pane as well, you could customize it. That's basically how we define the different styles and the different headings if you needed it. The zooming, you can change in the bottom right or here under the zoom options, and then viewing it multiple pages or page width and so on. So you can just change it however you need. Then you can also split the windows, so you can view two documents in two separate windows, so one on top and one on the bottom. This is more for comparing, or if you're building a new proposal or a new document based on an older one. However, nowadays this feature probably is replaced by using multiple monitors, which makes it a lot easier, so it's probably not as useful and as much needed anymore. And that should conclude those final aspects on using Word. Again, if you see the progression of the document, you start in the Home tab with using the basic functionality. You go in the Insert tab by inserting all kinds of additional components to enrich your paper. Then you go and change the design of the paper or your project. Go and change the page layout, add references such as table of contents, footnotes, endnotes, headers, footers, create mailings, and so on. In some cases, you might use the same document, in some cases not. And then you go into the review and viewing final stuff for basically just making it easier for you to view the content. So that's it for this session. In this brief session, I want to demonstrate how to create a PDF file from within Word 2013 or Word 365. To create a file, so we have a Word document here. All we have to do is to create a PDF file, click on File, and then choose Export. Then we choose PDF XPS, Create, give it a name, and there it is. That's all you have to do to create a PDF file in Word 2013.